Donald Trump has confirmed the US would be involved in security guarantees for Ukraine.
We are, of course, steel, but even the strongest metal can break.
These words came from the lips of Volodymyr Zelensky. A historic diplomatic process is currently underway between Washington and Kyiv that could change the fate of the war. The new White House administration has put forward a 28-point roadmap aimed at ending the war quickly, which is extremely pragmatic, but contains conditions that are quite difficult for Ukraine to accept. In Zelensky's words, Ukraine now stands at the most critical crossroads in its history, between preserving its honor and the risk of losing a key ally.
Face a very difficult choice, either lose dignity or risk losing a key partner.
Recently, a reporter asked Trump, what happens if Zelensky doesn't accept this deal?
Well, at some point he's going to have to accept something. You know, he hasn't accepted. You remember right in the Oval Office not so long ago, I said, you don't have the cards. Don't forget, I inherited this war. This war never would have happened. I inherited this war.
It is precisely in this climate of uncertainty that two key actors in regional stability, Turkey and Poland, are saying, enough is enough. And they are taking a stance that preserves the diplomatic and military balance for Kyiv. Looking at the map, we see two critical pillars for Ukraine's security. In the north, Poland, with its logistics routes and principled stance, and in the south, Turkey, with its diplomatic access and power in the Black Sea. Zelensky's words, "We trust in the power of Turkish diplomacy," show that Kyiv's strategy relies not only on Western capitals, but also on regional powers. This is a strategic depth that prevents Ukraine from being crushed under Washington's pressure and gives it room to maneuver. Because the provisions of the agreement plan are unacceptable to Poland, Turkey, or Kyiv. First, and perhaps most significantly, territory. The plan proposes recognizing Crimea, Luhansk, and Donetsk as de facto Russian territory. In Kherson and Zaporizhia, the lines will be frozen. That is, the war will stop, but Russian troops will not withdraw from the areas they have entered. Second, the army. Ukraine is currently defending its homeland with an army of approximately 850,000 soldiers. Trump's plan says, no, you will reduce your army. You can have a maximum of 600,000 soldiers. Imagine, you are under occupation, your neighbor has attacked you, and in exchange for peace, you are asked to reduce your capacity to defend yourself. This is a very hard pill for Kyiv to swallow. Third, the NATO fantasy. The NATO chapter, which has been described as open door for years, is closing with this plan. Ukraine will amend its constitution and declare, I will never join NATO. What is being offered in return? US security guarantees. But Zelensky rightly asks, you gave us guarantees before. You said you would protect us when we gave up our nuclear weapons in the Budapest Memorandum. What was the result? Faced with this situation, the burden on Zelensky is very heavy. It is precisely in the face of this heavy burden that the two key players in regional stability, Turkey and Poland, take the stage. Let's start with Poland. Article 9 of the plan, which concerns Polish territory, envisages the deployment of European warplanes in Poland. The fact that this plan was included in the text without consulting Warsaw created sensitivity regarding sovereignty within the Polish government. Tusk's statement that decisions concerning Poland will be made by Poles, nothing can be done about us without us, underscores the importance of the consultation mechanism within the NATO alliance. As Ukraine's main logistical hub, Poland views being left out of the process as a strategic risk. Warsaw's stance is clear. Peace negotiations cannot proceed without Ukraine's consent and participation. Tusk, stating that, when it comes to peace, all negotiations must include Ukraine, is trying to guarantee Kyiv's place at the table. Polish Defense Minister Kosiniak-Kamysz also supported this view, saying, there can be no fair peace without Ukraine's acceptance. This statement shows that differences of opinion on the method are becoming apparent within the Western alliance. At this point, where diplomatic traffic is congested, Ankara's stance serves as a diplomatic safety valve for Ukraine. The meeting between President Erdogan and Zelensky in Ankara showed that an alternative, more inclusive solution to Washington's plan is possible. Erdogan reiterated his support for Ukraine's territorial integrity in unwavering terms. In particular, the statement, "Our support for the Crimean Tatars will continue," confirms Ankara's position based on international law in the debate over Crimea's status. Turkey's approach is based on diplomacy that is non-coercive and facilitative, within three main frameworks. 1. Istanbul process. Erdogan proposes reviving the Istanbul process, which has yielded results in the past, with both sides at the table, rather than unilateral plans. This offers a more realistic basis for a just and lasting peace. 2. Humanitarian diplomacy. As Zelensky emphasized, Turkey plays a key role in prisoner exchanges and the situation of the Crimean Tatars. This is a humanitarian success story, independent of political tensions. 3. Black Sea security. Turkey's meticulous implementation of the Montreux Convention and its role in maritime security, Mine Countermeasures Task Group, are vital anchors for Ukraine's security. Former NATO intelligence officer Harun Reşit Aydın's analysis confirms this balance. Zelensky is diversifying his options with reliable partners such as Turkey, rather than remaining dependent on a single plan. As tensions escalated between Washington and Kyiv, a critical diplomatic development that could change the course of the war came from Moscow. With the White House's 28-point plan pressuring Ukraine on the table, Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan's call to revive the Istanbul peace process found resonance in the Kremlin. Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov clarified Moscow's position in a statement to reporters. Moscow is continuing. Moscow is open to negotiations. While Russia passed the ball to Kiev's court, it also confirmed its trust in Turkey's arbitration. This is Russia's message of, "We are ready to talk, but the venue must be Istanbul," at a time when the US is exerting unilateral pressure. Turkey's intervention changes the equation. Russia's positive response to Turkey's call refutes the argument that a diplomatic solution is impossible. The only way is to accept the US plan. Combined with Polish Prime Minister Tusk's statement that no decision can be made without us, this gives Ukraine a bargaining chip to strengthen its hand against Washington. Now we will examine what Turkey and Poland could do to stop Russia and end this war if Ukraine were to be left completely alone. We will also discover why Russia would not want to antagonize these two countries, given the intertwined nature of their relations from their shared historical process to the present day. But first, please remember to subscribe to our channel, turn on notifications, and like our content to stay informed. Let's get started. To understand why Poland and Turkey could be a very strong deterrent against Russia, and why they could take action to protect Ukraine's territorial integrity, we first need to take a brief look at history. Polish-Turkish relations have historically been close, but complex. Historically, the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth had a direct border with the Ottoman Empire, and both states had a turbulent history of open and consistent warfare against each other for centuries, particularly in the southeastern border regions of the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth around Moldavia, present-day Ukraine, Romania, and Crimea. Troops from the Kingdom of Poland were part of a large European coalition that attempted to repel the Ottoman invasion of Europe at the Battle of Nicopolis. The war between the two states began in 1443 with the Varna Crusade. Other wars were fought, and Poles and Turks also clashed in the Moldavian Magnate Wars. During the wars, parts of the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth came under the direct rule of the Ottoman Empire for a time, as the Podolia province or the Silistra province. The victory of the Polish-led forces at the Battle of Vienna in 1683 marked the end of the Ottoman advance into Europe. Diplomatic relations between the Ottoman Empire and the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth were established in the 15th century. In 1414, Ottoman Sultan Mehmed I received the first Polish diplomatic delegation at his palace in Bursa, then the capital of the Ottoman Empire. In 1489, the Ottoman Sultan allowed Polish merchants to trade throughout the Ottoman Empire. On the other hand, Turkey's support for the Polish Bar Confederation against Russia sparked the 1768 to 1774 Russo-Turkish War. After the partition of Poland, the Ottoman Empire was the only major country that did not recognize the final partition of the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth. There is an anecdote, widely recounted in Poland today, about an exchange between the chief of protocol and the Ottoman Empire's assistant. According to the story, whenever the diplomatic delegation was received by the Ottoman Sultan, upon seeing the Polish representative's empty chair, the Ottoman chief of protocol would ostentatiously ask where the Polish representative was. Each time, he would receive the same answer from his assistant. His Excellency, the Polish deputy, was unable to attend due to life-threatening obstacles, which annoyed the diplomats from the dissident states. In the 19th century, many Polish veterans of the November Uprising, the January Uprising, and the Crimean War came to Turkey. Polish officers such as Michał Czajkowski served in the Ottoman army. Polish General Marian Langowicz spent the last years of his life in Turkey, fought in the Ottoman army, and died in Istanbul. Polish poet Adam Mickiewicz spent the last months of his life in Istanbul and died there. The house where he lived was later converted into the Adam Mickiewicz Museum. In 1877, the Polish Legion in Turkey was established and fought alongside the Turks in the Russo-Turkish War of 1877 to 1878. Polonezköy, or Adam Pol village, located on the Anatolian side of Istanbul, was first settled in 1842 by Polish veterans of the November Uprising. More Polish settlers arrived in the 19th and 20th centuries. As of 2009, there was still a Polish minority in the village. The alliance between Poland and Turkey remained strong until the 20th century. Poland was the first country in Europe to recognize the Republic of Turkey, proclaimed by Mustafa Kemal Ataturk in 1923. During the German-Soviet occupation of Poland, which started World War II in 1939, Turkish authorities agreed to transport evacuated Polish gold through Turkish territory to Poland's ally France, and the Polish embassy in Ankara remained active throughout the war. During the Cold War, Poland and Turkey were part of two hostile military alliances, the Warsaw Pact and NATO, respectively. However, after the collapse of communism in Eastern Europe, relations between the two countries were re-established in the early 1990s. Poland's accession to NATO in 1999 further strengthened this close relationship. Poland's goal of becoming a NATO member was supported by Turkey. Finally, Poland expressed its views that Russia posed a threat to national sovereignty and accused Russia of interfering in foreign affairs in the Middle East and the former Soviet states. Therefore, Poland condemned Turkey's attempts to cozy up to Russia, such as purchasing the S-400 missile system and Turkey's deteriorating democracy. However, Poland has supported Turkey's efforts to join the European Union. So, despite some issues, both countries have managed to form an important and common alliance. In 2009, Poland and Turkey signed a mutual declaration on economic cooperation. Since the signing of the agreement, regular meetings have been held between Turkish and Polish entrepreneurs to support economic ties between the two countries. Since 2012, Poland, Turkey and Romania, as the three largest countries in NATO's eastern flank, have maintained regular contacts within the trilogue format for close cooperation. Since 2021, a Polish military unit has been deployed in Turkey as part of a NATO operation to help secure Turkey's borders. Since 2022, both Turkey and Poland have adopted the same stance on the invasion of Ukraine and oppose Russia. These two countries, which have built an incredible relationship from ancient times to the present, are ready to stand by Ukraine militarily and financially in a scenario where the US and the EU fail to provide sufficient support. While financial support may not match the level provided by the US to Ukraine, we cannot overlook the military deterrence capabilities of Turkey and Poland, which boast the second and third largest armies within NATO. In conclusion, the 28-point plan put forward by the US reflects Washington's changing priorities and its desire to end the war as soon as possible. However, this plan is not the only option. Washington's pragmatism is balanced by Poland's insistence on sovereignty and Turkey's constructive diplomacy. Polish Prime Minister Tusk's "never without us" stance and President Erdogan's "fair peace" vision give Zelensky the leverage he needs at the negotiating table. Do you think that in this multi-actor diplomatic traffic, the Istanbul process can come back into play and end the war fairly? We look forward to your analysis in the comments. To be the first to hear the facts and strategic analysis, subscribe to our channel and turn on notifications. Thank you for choosing us.